Hello, team. Welcome. And in this session, you're going to learn everything about starting or the roadmap of GenAI, generative AI. So, what does a generative AI engineer or what's his roles and responsibilities? Till the end of this session, we are going to learn, understand all the things. Okay. GenAI developer will be using the ChatGPT, Gemini, okay, getting the models from the Hugging Face and some of the LLMs like the ChatGPT, Perplexity. We'll be working with the models, maybe multimodal, but mostly on the text, video, and you might be starting also with the models which will generate the code. Generative AI engineer, if you see, generative AI engineer will be working with the text using the ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, which will generate when you hit it with the API, or when even in your day-to-day life you are actually using ChatGPT or Gemini, and then you are asking the questions in the text. You are getting the response in the text, and you might have also used the image models like the Sora, DAL-E, Midjourney, and some of the models where your response is audio, uh, yeah, response is video. And even if you are not into the group of the data science, you are into IT, or maybe specifically as a developer, tester, you are using some of the models which will return back or the response as code. The Copilot, Codex, Claude, okay, OpenClaw. So, what does a Gen AI developer do? Traditional AI prediction, the model creates it. This is the biggest shift in the pre-era of the AI and after the AI models have come into the market. Yeah. So, as I said, you guys are using the part of prompts in your day-to-day activity. While you're using the AI tools, also you are using the ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, or Gemini, where text is the response, audio very rarely, where you give input as audio to get the transcript wrap. You can use the Gemini multimodal or even sometimes Claude or ChatGPT. For the video, of course, you can use these. These have been trained on the multimodal, especially the Gemini Flash. And for the code generation, every developer or tester nowadays knows the first level how they were using the chat gpt in an extra screen, extra tab, and were generating the code. The second level where they are generating the code inside the IDE with restricted permissions, that is using the code models. How do you start? Basically, how do you start with being a Gen AI developer? Okay, you need to start with the Python, EDA, machine learning basics, prompt engineering, all the five principles. What's prompt engineering? How do you use it? Even in your day to day life, you can actually use prompt engineering to get the response from the model in a better way. Okay, if you have a model, some people ask, some of the user ask in a very vague English or maybe any other language, a big paragraph as an input. But if you're following the prompt engineering, all the five principles, like give it with an example, ask it like, act like a interviewer, act like a Steve Jobs, and give me some of the examples. So these are the five principles which, to become a Gen AI developer, you have to be knowing prompt engineering, how to use the models, not like a normal user where he is hitting through the web application front end, but also using the API and SDKs, concept of the database of AI. I call it as a vector DB RAG system, right? Using Pinecone or Vertex AI. Then once you have this model and it is been trained, the fine tuning techniques, all the hyperparameter, LoRa, QLoRa, understanding about the agentic AI systems using the Crew AI, the first as a Lang chain, Langsmith, NA10. These are the graphical, and this is at the code base level. And then once these models are actually trained, how do you actually deploy it on the cloud along with your MLOps guy? Or you need to be also understanding the versions of the models, how to log in into the infrastructure, how do you deploy and scale it. So starting from the Python, understanding EDA from the Kaggle data, prompt engineering, how to use the LLM, using at the code level, accessing the APIs through the keys, understanding what's RAG, using some of the tools, Pinecone, FIAS for the local, fine tuning techniques for the machine learning models on the prediction and classification, supervised and unsupervised way, agentic AI, some implementation or project understanding how is the workflow automation, some projects in NA10 Crew AI graphically, and at the through the code using the Lang chain, Langgraph, Langsmith, and understanding maybe one cloud with the AWS, SageMaker, Bedrock, how to deploy, or on the GCP side with the Vertex, how to deploy and scale your infrastructure. Let's go to the next. Let's see what's there. Yeah, prompt engineering is also for the non-technical persons who might be using the chat GPT, but if they use the prompt engineering technique, it would give a better result. Just like in Google, you can ask in a better English, right, with correct keywords, search for any restaurant. Some people ask like, where is the best restaurant near me? Or some people ask it in a very different way. So depending upon the quality of the prompt, you get the response back. Then you need to be understanding the prompt engineering zero shot, where you have not given any of the example. Chain of thoughts, it asks the model what are you thinking, what is the COT method. Some of the models you might have seen in 2025, after November 2025 to till date, that whatever it's doing, you're able to actually see it's revealing you what it's doing. That is the chain of thoughts. It's not like a black box, you ask a question and you get the response very immediately, or maybe due to latency little slow, but it tells you what it is doing. It's thinking, it's accessing the file, or whatever the action that is performing. Then reason and act. It's like ask the same question, but you reason and act. It will take little bit of time. It will apply the reasoning little bit extra than a normal prompt. Few shots are like giving some examples. Role prompting is like, if I want to let's say for example, if I want to prepare for the RAG system, or let's take for the Gen AI interview questions, I would give my resume to the chat GPT Perplexity and give a prompt, act like an interviewer, access this resume, and conduct the technical and coding rounds from this resume, whatever the tools, frameworks are, then simulate that particular. That's the role prompting. Or I can ask, one second example would be to act like a financial expert, take my salary slip, take my all my investments, and give me better uh, edited version of it, okay, packaged version of it. Or you want to get your response in a particular JSON format, XML format, or in a very simple way, in a tabular format, comparing all the products that is coming back as a response. Let's take for example, give me list of all the shoes from these 7 companies and size as this, color as this, and at the comfort level, at the sports cache level. Okay, so as a Gen AI developer, you need to be understanding the prompt engineering, all these techniques. Okay, where you can learn using the chat GPT, Claude, or Google AI Studio. All these techniques work for any LLM to get the response in a very better way. To become a Gen AI engineer, Gen AI developer, you need to be knowing how to use the Open AI chat GPT, and how do you get the, normally every user knows it, how to give the input as a text, get the output as a text, give the input as a text, get the image as response, get the audio as response, or using some of the tools like the dal e to get the response back, or Google Nano Banana. If you're using the Google Gemini, the same. Basically, Google's Gemini was the first LLM model which was multi-model. That means you can ask the response to be in a pic, it will generate the pic. It will, you can ask to make it as a video, shorter video, depending upon your token size or your session, it will generate that particular video. And mainly on part of the website Hugging Face, or the platform where many of the models are hosted, how your code as a Gen AI developer, how you can actually access those small language model with smaller billion parameter. There you are using chat GPT, Perplexity, these are called LLMs, large language models, which are nearly like 10 billion parameter above it. If you want just below 7 or 5, this would be called as the SLM. Okay, and these are specific models which are only for speech to text, image generation, sentence embedding. Vector embedding models are also very different than normal text response or image response model. You can also use the Perplexity through the chat interface or the API way to get the real-time web info. Domain specific search only for finance or healthcare related fine-tuned models, you can get it. So as a Gen AI developer, you should be able to access through normal input or through your code using the API and the key, and also from the Facebook Olama, which will be sitting in your local laptop, desktop, or maybe on-prem server, and then without the connectivity to the outer world, it can actually, you can access it, use it, hit with any of the input, get the response back. Yeah. For the next concept is the database of AI, vector DB. Okay, this is very different than your normal SQL RDBMS concept. It is totally new technique of vector embeddings, where your whole sentences or your whole resume or your book PDF is stored as embeddings inside your database. So you should be knowing how you can actually input these documents, how you can break these particular documents into chunks. Okay, let's say 3 to 5 chunks of your resume, convert it into embeddings and store it in the vector database, Pinecone, or any specific vector database, and then use your code to actually retrieve it, and then you can also, in a standard way, you keep an LLM actually to structure it in a particular sentence and get the response back. Okay, so you can use the from the Facebook FAS, from the Chrome Generally, we use the pine cone and weave. The next is, after the prompt engineering and vector database, you should be good at, or you should be having all the methods of the fine tuning, just like LoRa, QLoRa. Even in the interview, you will be asked with these questions of machine learning, hyperparameter fine tuning concepts, LoRa, QLoRa, using with TRL, how you use it with the different models, or if you're using the prediction or the regression or the classification, what kind of fine tuning you'll do, how you will be doing the fine tuning at the model level, and even with the prompt engineering way of fine tuning. The roles and responsibilities. Yeah, you have some roles and responsibilities. Specifically, as a GenAI developer, you can also be a prompt engineer who will be only working with some of the fine tuning of the model, generate some of the prompts, some question answer, whichever the model is able to give the answer, edge questions answer, which is not able to give the answer, you just test it, fine tune it using prompt engineering technique. LLM app developer, like using the API to integrate these LLMs, build the RAG pipeline, have a web application chat UI, so that you can users can actually access your app. Fine tuning engineer, basically combination of the GenAI only, where you will be applying the fine tuning techniques. AI agent builder, you uses the tool like LangChain, N8N Crew AI graphical way. LLM ops is like, you remember the web application or full stack DevOps guy who is helping you to deploy your code, give access to the GitHub, uh, create the infrastructure. In the same way, for the projects of the data science, for building the whole pipeline, getting your access to the cloud, AWS or GCP, and then deploying the models. These guys are OPS. So we have the DevOps guys, ML ops, machine learning, whole project creation infrastructure, giving the access, and then you have only the models or the whole pipeline as a LLM ops engineer, who will just not only help you to deploy these LLMs or the models, but also to monitor them. What is the response they are giving? Are they giving correct answers, wrong answers, or they are just making up those answers and giving it to the user? You need to monitor observability, this is called as. Then they will be keeping the guardrails. If any of the user asks some irrelevant question, for a finance model, he is asking something about healthcare or fashion or anything about politics, they evaluate what kind of responses these models are generating. They track the cost. Let's say they are, it was expected to be 1,000 users, some tokens to be generated, but there are 50,000 users, and the usage has cost has gone 1,000 times. So they also keep track of the cost. Even like DevOps and MLOps guys had the responsibility to track the cost along with the management. So the skill matrix goes here. You must have, and at the expert level, start with the Python, understand what is LLM, how to access it using the API key code level. Prompt engineering, or even your day-to-day activity, it would be good to learn this skill, understand the vector DBs, LangChain, the code level of agentic systems. And even for the interview, even for your projects, to fine tune and other things, yeah, fine tuning techniques, understanding the containerization, Docker, Kubernetes. And if after all the project, to give the access to the user, giving an making the web application, Of course, the database concepts and understanding the version control Git, because whatever code that you're writing will be actually pushed into the Git, and from there deployed, it will be running in the container. If you have these skills, you are at the expert level where you have the multi-agent system, LangChain, Crew AI, where you have multiple agents which are working in the workflow automation or orchestrated, LLM evaluating the LLM response, what are the evaluation frameworks, custom model training from the Hugging Face, getting your own models from any of the platform, pipelines, and the observability like monitoring, security, guardrails. So you can learn these models, you can get it from the Hugging Face. You can also understand it from the LangChain, and of course, we are there to train you. So to become the Gen AI developer, they ship the things, they deploy, they make it accessible to the user. You need to start small, iterate fast, test it, change it, deploy it, build a chat GPT connected Python app, add a RAG, add some of the GenAI, yeah, any of the short courses, and then once the code is developed, push it to the GitHub, deploy it, make your portfolio. You first start it with your GitHub while you're doing the Python, pushing the code every day, which will look as a contribution, then into the Kaggle for little bit part of the EDA, then into the Hugging Face, accessing the models there, have some of the projects on the agentic systems of NA10, Crew AI, and of course the LangChain would be at the code level, so you can push it in the GitHub. So any questions, just leave it in the comment, and hope you have got end-to-end understanding where to start from the Python and become a GenAI expert. Thank you.